fragile newcomer the galaxy thought it was, but a quiet storm, waiting for the right moment to strike. When the Galactic Council issued an ultimatum, they expected fear, but instead, they uncovered something far more dangerous: preparation. Beneath calm voices and polite diplomacy, Earth had been building a secret, one that could shake the stars. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel and show your support with a thumbs up. Now, let's dive into this unforgettable story. The great chamber of the Galactic Assembly was silent as the enormous skylight panels revealed the stars beyond. Dozens of alien representatives sat around a wide circular table, their forms strange and diverse, some covered in shimmering scales, others drifting like clouds of living light, still others locked inside armored shells. All of them watched as the human ambassador Lena Quinn entered alone through the central archway. Her footsteps echoed softly against the obsidian floor, the only sound in the vast room. She wore a dark blue uniform with a simple silver emblem, the symbol of the United Earth Confederacy, over her heart. Her eyes scanned the chamber, but her expression revealed nothing. At the far end of the circle, the image of Regent Ovactol flickered to life, projected by a platform embedded in the floor. His species resembled towering amphibians with smooth, oily skin and wide mouths filled with thin, translucent teeth. His enormous hands rested on the curved table, and his 3 golden eyes locked on Lena with a gaze that was both calculating and cold. "Ambassador Quinn," his voice boomed through the translator system, deep and resonant. "You come before us at the edge of consequence." Lena didn't flinch. She stood with her hands calmly at her sides and waited. "The Council has reached a final consensus," Ovactol continued. "Your species has expanded beyond its means, ignored warnings, and refused limitations. You have built settlements in forbidden systems, developed weapons that violate our accords, and defied galactic oversight." A murmur rippled through the chamber, alien sounds of agreement, disapproval, and tension. Lena felt every eye, every sensor, every tendril of attention fixed upon her. But she had prepared for this. She had known this moment would come. "And what is the Council's judgment?" she asked, her voice even, though her heart pounded against her ribs. Ovactol's projection straightened. "Humanity will cease all expansion immediately. All interstellar settlements beyond your current borders are to be abandoned. Your military fleet must be reduced by 70%. And a joint oversight commission, led by Council authorities, will monitor your activities for the next 50 years. The air in the room seemed to grow colder. Lena's lips pressed into a thin line, but she did not reply right away. Somewhere behind her composed exterior, she was replaying the scenarios. How Earth's leadership had guessed the Council's ultimatum. How they'd debated whether diplomacy would work. How they had prepared just in case. She lifted her chin slightly. "And if we refuse?" A sharp clicking sound came from the representatives to her right. A cluster of insectoid beings from the southern spirals. From her left, a tall, gliding figure emitted a musical chime, which the translator rendered as, "Then extinction follows." Ovactol did not blink. "We are 62 worlds united by balance. We have preserved peace in this galaxy for millennia. If one species threatens that order, it must be corrected." Lena nodded once. "Then I will deliver the Council's terms to my leaders." She turned to leave, her long coat swaying behind her, but paused as a second projection appeared suddenly, across the table. A being of pure light, shaped like a floating ribbon, hovered in the air. This was Envoy Kaylee, one of the most respected voices among the energy-born civilizations. Her voice was softer, but it carried through the chamber. "Ambassador Quinn," Kaylee said, "many among us hoped for a different future with your people, but your silence in the past year has left us uneasy. Your settlements grow, yet your communications have ceased. Why?" Lena turned back. For the first time, she allowed a flicker of expression, just enough to reveal the truth she wanted them to see. "We were listening," she said. "We wanted to see if peace was truly something you believed in, or if it was only peace when you controlled it." Kaylee tilted slightly, glowing faintly. "And what did you learn?" Lena took a breath. We learned that unity doesn't mean submission. We saw how easily fear turns into demands. And we prepared accordingly. The chamber erupted with murmurs again, louder this time, more uncertain. Lena raised her wrist and pressed a small device. A quiet chime sounded in her ear, confirmation of a successful link. "This is Ambassador Quinn to High Command," she said calmly, the words transmitted through a secure neural uplink. "The Council has issued its ultimatum," a voice responded, in her mind, measured, calm, and unmistakably military. "Copy, Ambassador. What's your assessment?" Lena's gaze moved over the Council one more time. She saw anger, confusion, but most of all, fear, and she realized with sudden clarity that the fear was not new. It had always been there, waiting to rise. "They think they can crush us," she said quietly, "but they don't understand what we've become." "Understood," came the reply. "Return to base. We move to stage 2. Lena ended the link and walked from the chamber without another word. Behind her, the voices of the galaxy's greatest powers rose in agitation, but she knew they had made a mistake. They had mistaken humanity's silence for weakness, and soon, they would understand the truth. The city of Horus Prime glowed beneath a blanket of stars, its towers stretching high into the thin upper atmosphere, blinking with soft white lights. Inside one of those towers, buried deep below the surface, a command room hummed with quiet urgency. Dozens of personnel moved between consoles, each screen glowing with streams of data, fleet routes, and surveillance logs. At the center stood Commander Dario Vale, hands behind his back, his eyes fixed on the main display showing the current positions of the United Earth Confederacy's official fleet. On paper, it looked like humanity had just over 200 active warships, not enough to face what was coming. Dario's jaw clenched as he scanned the information. He knew what most of the galaxy thought. They saw humans as clever but reckless, fast to rise and likely to fall. But Dario also knew what they didn't. The real fleet, the real defense, was not visible on any map. He had helped design the SO strategy himself years ago. Now every hidden detail was about to matter. "Commander," a voice called behind him. It was Mira Kine, a young specialist whose sharp mind had made her one of the intelligence division's most trusted analysts. She handed him a datapad, her expression tight. "The Council fleet has left neutral space. Our outer watch stations confirm. Over 1,200 vessels. They'll reach the Helix corridor in 19 hours. Dario gave a slow nod. "Faster than expected. Anything else?" Mira hesitated. "We picked up a brief spike in long-range scans about 3 hours ago. Someone's searching for energy signatures in the Draconis belt." Dario turned sharply. "They're already probing the outer layers." He looked at the map again, but now with different eyes. The Draconis belt wasn't just rocks and mining outposts. It was one of their first decoy zones, filled with fake signal trails and dormant defense satellites. "They'll think it's important," he muttered, almost to himself. "Let them." "Sir?" Mira asked. "Send more false data through the Draconis channels. Let them think they're uncovering a secret depot," he said. "If they believe it's our fallback point, we can guide them straight into one of the veiled zones." Mira tapped out the command without hesitation. She trusted the commander's instincts. Everyone in the room did. Dario had served during the Syrinx border crisis, back when humanity's place in the stars was still uncertain. He had seen entire colonies burn because no one took the threat seriously. He had sworn never to let it happen again. As Mira left, Dario turned toward the adjacent chamber, where a private comm link awaited him. The secure line connected directly to the capital, and more specifically, to the office of Chancellor Norin, Aster. When Norin appeared on screen, his face was tired. The weight of leadership had aged him in just a few years, but his voice still carried strength. "Dario," he said, "I just spoke to Ambassador Quinn. The Council didn't offer negotiations." Dario shook his head. "They offered surrender." Norin sighed and looked down briefly. "I hoped we had more time." "We never had time, sir," Dario said, "but we have something better." We have readiness. Norin hesitated. The emergency council is divided. Some of them still believe we should ask for one last meeting. Dario's expression darkened. And say what? Beg to be managed? Plead? For mercy? You know what I'm asking. Norin said quietly. Are we prepared? Dario didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached forward and entered a code on the console beside him. Slowly, the main display began to shift. The map that once showed only the official fleet now transformed. In red and silver, hundreds of hidden assets began to appear. Ships without registry tags, stations tucked into nebulae, and orbital platforms cloaked near moons and asteroids. We're more than ready, Dario said. We've been building this net for over 20 years. It's not just defense, it's redirection, concealment, control. Norin stared at the display. And the lighthouse protocol? All nodes operational, Dario confirmed. They won't see it coming. Back at the intelligence station, Mira sat at her desk, her eyes flicking between windows of incoming data. The sensor readings were clear. The Council's ships were moving steadily toward the bait. But another screen caught her attention. An intercepted Council broadcast, partially scrambled. As she decrypted it, her brow furrowed. It wasn't about the fleet, it was about Earth itself. The Council believed humanity would try to shield its population, to evacuate worlds, to hide. They were preparing for a slow-moving target. Mira smiled. They didn't understand. Earth wasn't hiding. It was watching. She opened a secure channel. Command, this is Kine. Forwarding new intercept, recommend immediate review. This one's interesting. The pieces were moving. The Council believed they were marching toward an easy victory. But they didn't see the shadows humanity had placed beneath the stars, their careful preparations, the quiet endurance, the way they had trained not just their fleets but their minds. Back in his chamber, Dario watched as additional human assets flickered onto the screen. Silent ships waiting behind gas giants, defense platforms buried in asteroid rings, subspace relays ready to jam every enemy signal. He leaned forward and whispered, "Let them come." Above Aurus Prime, the night sky sparkled with light. From the surface, it looked calm and eternal. But beyond the stars, in the cold silence of space, something stirred. Not fear, not desperation, readiness. The Council fleet moved like a tide through the void, ships from 62 different species gliding, in formation, all focused on a single goal, reaching human space and ending what they believed was a growing threat. From the bridge of the flagship Dawncaller, Grand Admiral Thalik Drun watched the stars slip past with quiet focus. His skin shimmered faintly in the soft light, his amphibian features calm but alert. He had served the Council for nearly 200 years. He had fought border wars, led peacekeeping missions, and faced everything from rogue warlords to black hole anomalies. But this felt different. Behind him stood tactician Jaima Tor, the youngest member of the Council fleet's command team. She was brilliant, focused, and had a habit of asking questions no one else dared to. Today was no different. "Admiral," she said, lowering her voice, "don't you think it's odd that the humans haven't responded at all?" Thalik glanced at her, then returned to the fleet overview on his display. "They've made their choice," he said. "The ultimatum deadline passed. Silence is an answer." "Or a trap," Jaima replied. Before Thalik could answer, the voice of Observer Vrex filled the bridge. The AI drone embedded in the fleet's core systems spoke in its usual monotone. "Energy signatures detected in Sector 853. Source: inactive asteroid fields." Thalik stepped forward. "Details? Multiple spikes. Synchronized. Consistent with power-up protocols," Vrex said. Jaima leaned in. "That's a known mining zone, human claim. But we didn't detect any installations there before. Humans have a talent for hiding what matters," Thalik said grimly. Across the fleet, captains began to report the same thing. Asteroid fields lighting up, communication relays flickering to life. Energy surges in zones that should have been empty. Some ships began to change formation, pulling tighter. A few captains requested permission to slow their advance. Thalek gave none. "We proceed," he said to the fleet. "Adjust scanning frequencies. Remain alert." Still, unease crept in. Jima reviewed sensor data with growing discomfort. "They're lighting up the map, Admiral, and not in a random pattern. It looks coordinated." Another alert came through, this time from the edge of the Helix corridor, a wide passage through human territory. Rex's tone shifted slightly, more urgent. "New contact detected. Class unknown. Cloaked until 32 seconds ago. Now broadcasting signal. Put it on screen," Thalek ordered. A woman appeared standing on the bridge of a human vessel. Her uniform was unfamiliar, sleek and marked with the Terran crest. She stood tall and still, eyes sharp, but calm. "Council Fleet," she said. "I am Admiral Lane Vasari of the Terran Defense Initiative. You have entered restricted space. Your presence is considered hostile." Thalek stepped forward, speaking clearly. "You are outnumbered, Admiral. Surrender your fleet, and we will spare your worlds." Admiral Vasari tilted her head slightly. "You assume this is all we have. You assume wrong." Gemma turned toward Thalek. "Sir, we're picking up more contacts. Hundreds. They're everywhere." The fleet display changed as dozens. Then hundreds of new ships began to appear. From behind moons, out of asteroid clusters, even from within the rings of gas giants. Some were small and sleek, others massive and heavily armed. None were on record. Thalek stared. "How is this possible?" "They've been building it in secret," Gemma whispered. "For years." Across the Council fleet, panic began to ripple. Ships requested updates. Commanders asked for orders. Rex began cycling through tactical scenarios, but none showed a clear path forward. Not with these new numbers. Not this deep. Into hostile space. Admiral Vasari's voice came through again. "We don't want war, but if you continue forward, we will defend every world. Every station, every citizen. This is your moment to turn back." Thalek said nothing. The bridge was silent. Even Vrex paused. Finally, Gemma spoke. "We miscalculated, sir. They're not panicking because they were never unprepared." Thalek looked at the new ship signatures. Many had no match in any database. Some carried weapons far beyond known Council designs. "They've built a second fleet," he said slowly. "A hidden force. More than that," Gemma added. "They've built a network, a shield, and we're already inside it." A new signal came through, this time from the Council's command hub. High Regent Ovaktol appeared, his voice sharp. "Admiral Drune, explain the delay. Eliminate the human threat." Thalek stared at the message, then slowly turned back to Vasari's image. "And if we refuse?" he asked. Vasari's eyes narrowed slightly. "Then you'll learn what happens when you press too hard against a quiet world." Thalek knew then that this battle would not be won by numbers. It would not be decided by sheer power. The humans had not just prepared for this war, they had designed it. He lowered his voice and gave the only order that made sense. "Signal all ships," he said. "Halt advance, reconfigure formations, and prepare for negotiation." And, across the stars, the unstoppable armada paused, not in defeat, but in sudden cold understanding. Rain swept across the skylights of the Capitol Tower in New Terra, the largest city on Earth. The weather was artificial, part of the planet's regulated climate system, but tonight it matched the mood perfectly. Cold, tense, and on the edge of a storm. Inside the tower, strategist Romy Hale stood in front of a massive holomap, her fingers gliding across it as hundreds of fleet symbols shimmered into view. She had spent most of her adult life working behind sealed doors, creating what many believed was impossible. A defense system not only strong enough to resist the Galactic Council, but clever enough to do it in silence. Every hidden platform, every cloaked ship, every decoy facility, she had helped design them all. Behind her, the elevator doors opened with a soft hiss. Chancellor Norrin Astor entered the room, shoulders stiff, eyes tired. "The council fleet has stopped moving," he said quietly. "They haven't fired, not yet." Romy didn't look away from the display. "They won't. Not if they're smart, but they're afraid, and fear pushes people to do stupid things." Norrin stepped closer. "How many of them know the full truth?" "None," Romy said. "Not even their best analysts. We made sure of that. Every signal they intercepted, every satellite they thought was spying on us, every military number they logged, it was all theater." Norrin let out a slow breath. "You think it's enough?" Romy finally turned to face him. "We didn't just build a fleet, Chancellor. We built a lesson." In orbit, the first wave of hidden human ships had now fully revealed themselves. Platforms embedded inside moons, weapons hidden in hollowed-out asteroids, cruisers wrapped in cloaking fields. And even more were still waiting in reserve, deeper in uncharted systems. On the bridge of the Horizon Flame, Admiral Lane Vasari watched the fleet's coordination unfold. Her expression was calm, but her thoughts were racing. This was the moment they had trained for, a confrontation not of numbers, but of perception. Across the galaxy, council worlds watched the standoff. Civilizations that had once dismissed humanity as an impatient newcomer were now holding their breath. Some leaders called for retreat. Others demanded immediate attack. A few, very few, began to wonder if the humans had simply grown faster than anyone expected. Far from the core worlds, on a neutral station orbiting a dead star, emissary Tian arrived in secret. She was known for her calm wisdom, and tonight she had agreed to meet a representative from Earth. That representative was Lena Quinn. The meeting chamber was quiet, almost peaceful. Tian studied Lena for a long moment before speaking. "You didn't respond with force, that was wise." "Force is loud," Lena replied, "but silence makes people listen." Tian nodded. "Many on the council fear you now, but some are starting to understand you." Lena leaned forward. "Fear will never bring peace. We don't want to rule anyone. We don't want to destroy your fleets. We just want to stop being treated like a mistake that needs managing." Tian considered her words. "If you had wanted war, you would have launched first." "We didn't prepare for war to start one," Lena said. "We prepared so it would never start at all." Back on the Dawn Caller, Grand Admiral Thalik Drone stood in front of his crew. His command staff had grown quiet as more hidden human assets appeared on their screens. Ship after ship, station after station. None of them detected in any previous council scans. They weren't just surrounded, they were outmaneuvered. Thalik opened a secure line to council headquarters. High Regent Ovaktol's face appeared. Once again, frustration carved into every line of his features. "Why have you not advanced?" Ovaktol snapped. "Because we underestimated them," Thalik answered calmly. "And if we don't stop now, we'll lose more than ships. We'll lose our place in the future." "You were sent to make a point," Ovaktol growled. "And that point has been made," Thalik replied. "But not by us." On Earth, in a quiet room within the Central Command Complex, Romy stood with Norrin and Lena, watching the final readout. The council fleet had begun to shift, slowly, carefully. They weren't retreating yet, but they were no longer moving. Forward. "They're thinking," Romy said. "And that means they're afraid to guess wrong again." Lena looked at the others. "What do we do now?" Norrin smiled faintly. "We do what we always wanted to. We talk." 3 days later, a formal message was sent from the Terran Confederacy to the Galactic Council. It offered new trade terms, a revised peace agreement, and an open seat at future galactic summits. The tone was diplomatic, respectful, but clear. Humans would not be ruled. They would stand as equals, or not at all. Across the stars, some species rejected the offer. Others hesitated, but many began to reconsider. Maybe this wasn't the rise of a threat. Maybe it was the beginning of balance. Back in the strategy room, Romy stood alone, watching the stars slowly spin across the holomap. The storm had come and passed, but its silence would echo for generations.